Third graders, what's going on? It's Mr. Stanley, and it's been a long time since you might have heard my voice, but I'm going to go ahead and deliver a lesson to you today that is pretty neat. We have, the first thing we should probably do is put our math hoodies on. Let's get ready to roll here. We've got a little bit of well, this is what's called a table right here. So this is one way that we can show data. So the title is Library Books, Data, and Graph. Woodlawn Elementary School's librarian, Mr. Jackson, is keeping track of the kinds of books students check out. This chart shows the number of each kind of book the third graders have checked out so far this year. So I want you to pause the video and just kind of take a look at the different genres and the different numbers of books that each student has checked out. Okay, so you probably have noticed that a few things. The first thing you've probably noticed is that this first column right here is telling me the genre or the type of book. And you might have also noticed they're in alphabetical order. The second or the middle column, you'll notice that it is either fiction or nonfiction. And you probably remember from Reader's Workshop, we've been lately reading a lot about nonfiction or things that are true facts as opposed to fiction, things that are stories with fictional characters that might be made up. And then the third column over here is the number of books that each child or each third grader checked out. You probably noticed that some of the numbers are very low. For instance, here's sports. So it tells me that third graders aren't checking out a lot of sports books. And you might also notice that overall fiction, just general fiction books, students are checking out. This tells me it might be something like maybe just general realistic fiction. And then we have some other lower ones like fantasy is 10 and biography is 12. But then we have adventure. Look at this. 32 books have been checked out in the fiction category of adventure. So I'd like you to pause the video and think about what kind of graph might fit best for this data. Okay, so maybe you thought, I think maybe a picture graph might work. We talked about those yesterday. Maybe a bar graph might work. We've done those before, and we did it during Number Corner in the month of September. So let's take a look at a bar graph. I'm going to show you this particular story right here. So the third graders want to know more about what their students are reading. Today we're going to be creating a bar graph showing the information Mr. Jackson collected. Each cell in the graph stands for 4 books checked out. Label and title your graph. So when we are thinking in terms of our bar graph here, today is a little different. Each square isn't worth 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. We can't do it that way because some of our books have 32 books checked out. So we're going to need to make each box worth 4. So the first thing I should probably do is to label this axis right here. And I'm going to do that right now. I'm going to do it in blue. So I'm going to do 4 plus 4 more is 8, 12, 16, 20, 24, 28, 32, and 36. Okay? So now that I have all of these, I would know now that each box, if I shaded it in, is going to be worth, let's see if I can erase it. Okay, is going to be worth, pardon me, 4. So the next thing I need to label is I'm probably going to need to label the bottom or the types of books. So each column is going to represent the genre of book that each third grader read. So let me go back and take a look. So as you can see, each one of these starts with a letter. And I might kind of shorten it up because there's not a lot of room to write the word adventure underneath those columns. So maybe I will abbreviate. So for the first one, for adventure, I might write ADV. So let's do that. So my first one, let's use green for this one. I'm going to put ADV for adventure. And then my next one was arts and crafts. So I'm going to do AC for arts and crafts, types of book. My next one, I'm going to put bio for biography. My next one, I'm going to put fantasy, FAN for fantasy, or FANT for fantasy. Then I'm going to put fiction, or FICT for fiction. Then for graphic novels, I'm going to write GN for graphic novels. I could even put graph. Science, I'm just going to put SCI for science. And then sports, I'm going to write SPTS, sports. Notice how I didn't use just one letter because it might get very confusing considering I have a couple of them that start with the same letter like FF, SS, and AA. So now our job is to fill in each particular one. So if you look back at the graph in your student book on page 68, you'll notice that this particular graph and the chart I showed you on the number of books checked out is in your student book on page 68. And today, your job is to fill in this graph. So let's do the first one together. If you look at the first one together, you'll notice that let's pick an easy one. Let's do sports. So I'm going to take my little fill in here and I'm going to do sports. And sports, if you look back at the table for sports, it's 8. So if I color in here, I've got 4 because I know each box is worth 4 plus 4. And I've shaded an 8. Let's take one that is a little different. How about fantasy? As you can see, my fantasy is right here in this column. Fantasy's 10. So I have to ask myself, if this box is 4 and this box is 8, my next box is 12. I have a problem. I don't have a box for 10. So I need to go in between these two boxes. So that means I'm going to, let's pick a different color for this one. Let's go like purple. So for fantasy, I know that there are 10. So for fantasy, I'm going to color in 4. I definitely have 8, but I have less than 12 and more than 8. So halfway in between those 4 is going to be 10. So I'm just going to do half of that box. Hopefully your coloring is better than mine. So as you can see, I'm going to continue on and I'm going to continue to fill in my chart until I have all of my data. Once I've finished my chart, or once I've finished my scaled bar graph here, I'm going to answer some questions on page 69. And those questions are going to require me to compare these two right here. Compare all of them. So if it wanted me to compare sports and fantasy, you can see obviously fantasy has more, but the question might be which one has more and by how much. You'll see that sports has 8, fantasy has 10. So fantasy has 2 more than sports, 10 minus 8, and the difference is 2. So you'll see questions just like that on page 69. So good luck with your graph and good luck answering the questions on page 69 as well. Have a great day, everybody.